Hello, everyone. Welcome to the channel. Now we are here with my beautiful two friends, Catherine Beckham from Nine Health Productions and Sandrine from New Forest Astrology, and myself, Denise from Connectarian Astrology, to talk about new moon in Cancer. Welcome, ladies. How are you? How
Hi,
have you
Denise.
been?
Thank you
Good.
for having us. It's lovely to be here.
Yes. So
Already?
say
Goes-
that again.
It goes really quick 1 month. So we're back already, yeah?
Yes, very quick in a couple of very busy months, right? So we're going to talk about mainly about the new moon in Cancer and some aspects happening in the month of July. So we thought about recording and about remembering everyone that the new moon is the conjunction of the sun and the moon. Like I like to think that as it's a new birth, right? And every time the new moon happens in one sign and it goes gradually sign by sign, I see that I don't know how you ladies see, but I see as an opportunity to borrow some of this characteristics of that sign, of the inspiration of that sign, which also activates one particular area of our charts. So every month we have the opportunity of plant new seeds in that particular area. So as Mentasky ladies, for me, it's in the sixth house. I'm Aquarius rising. So I have this Cancer in the sixth house. I had a teacher once that said, whatever is in the sixth house, it's every day. I was actually thinking the other day, if I'm too, a Cancer person every day, like at work, I felt like this caring thing about work. I feel that. I feel the Cancer. So I like it's. I think it's a nice house, and I think we underestimate the sixth house a lot. I see that as our small temple, whereas the 12th is the big temple. It's the temple of the routine of what we do every day. So I plan to, meditate about that, about habits, about I usually say to customers and on videos, what do you want to explore in your routine? What do you want to get rid of? Maybe that's what I plan to do. So how about you, ladies? What's inspiring you in the area of the chart that the new moon falls? Who
Sandrine?
starts? Kathy.
Cathy, Sandrine. Go, Cathy, go.
But it falls in my 10th house.
Mm.
So it means then that this is to do with public image and how I see my career expanding. So I'm going to be planting seeds for my future, talking about things that I find interesting and sharing it with the outside world.
Excellent.
Sandrine?
Plus, I like it's in the 10th, so there's that exchange with actually the axis, Capricorn, and you, Denise. There is the square to the node as well. So your six, the node is in the south, is in Virgo. So there's all this idea of, service and, finding maybe some challenges, yeah, a bit. Mine is falling. It's still going to be in my seventh house, and I can. So to go back a bit, I really like the new moon because, yeah, it's a bit paradoxal, but it's a beginning and an end at the same time. And I find it, even though it's a dark time, it's a good time to get some clarity on a particular point, wherever it falls in your chart. So mine is still in the seven. I'm rising Sagittarius. I've got a big 1-7 axis. And I can see changes in relationship, but also all the topics of safety, feeling safe, but also providing safety for others. It's playing very, very strong at the minute in my life, and so that's going to be an important new moon for me.
Yeah, great. And we were talking about this. I think everybody's talking about this craziness in the world. So we want to explore here in this new moon the tough aspects we are seeing at the moment. We're going to deep dive into the Cancer sign, which I think it's the important thing about the new moon, and explore all this opportunity that we have when you have a new moon in a particular sign. But a lot going on, like, right, ladies? We had the Jupiter entering Cancer in, we have
The
the
night.
date, 9th of June. And also we have, prior to the new moon, a solstice in Cancer. So we have a lot of cardinals, right? A lot of the beginning for the audience who are not so familiar with the rhythms. We have this emphasis on cardinal signs, which are the ones that makes a movement, right? It starts a movement. So actually we have the new moon in Cancer at 4 degrees of Cancer. By the way, we didn't say that to the public, and maybe you guys, you ladies, help me in your time zone, but in mine, for the public in Brazil, we're gonna have on the 25th of June at 7:31 a.m. For you ladies, gonna be
11:31.
Yeah, 11:30. Yeah.
11:30 on the 25th of
Okay.
June at
Yeah.
4 degrees Cancer.
Yeah.
And then we have a crescent moon in Libra, 11 degrees of Libra on the 2nd of July, also cardinal sign. Then a full moon in Capricorn, the opposition, right? Another cardinal on the 10th of July, and the waning moon on the 18th, 25th Aries. The sign really being activated at the moment. So we have this cardinality at the moment, and very important aspects going on that are frozen for this new moon for 28, 30 days. There is unfolding. So I would like to explore that, how you guys see. So there's a lot of a Cancerian, and I thought about this, the characteristics of Cancer in our personal life goes into family, the roots, the domestic life, emotional. And on the collective, it raises the nationalism, the protection for the land.
Yeah.
How do you see that? Any thoughts?
I think 25. I mean, I'm sure. I'm not sure if you'll agree with me, but 2025, it's a massive year. It's a year of transition, and I would say that July is the month that is marking that transition for many reasons. But all that cardinality is playing its role. There's lots happening in the world, and when I was looking at the new moon a while ago, that one in particular, I saw the vibe was quite nice, compared to the previous one. And now actually, it's not that it's not nice I think it's actually supportive more than gentle. It's a supportive new moon in a difficult context. I think it's a new moon that's going to ask us to relate to this topic you've just mentioned of family and roots. Family as in roots, actually. Where we come from, what is providing us that stable ground on which to grow, and to invite us to find some strengths within. And the reason for that is because we're going to need it. I think we have very tough times coming ahead, waiting for us. We can see, the cosmological, the planetary alignment, which are coming. And if we look back in the past, we can see the history of them. And we know, that's how we know that it might be quite demanding. And so that new moon is about a big aspect for me. It's to go back to these topics of family, ancestry, tradition. You're talking about nationalism, but it's that maybe tradition and what makes us feel safe and protected. So that maybe your home or your country or your value or and we need to get some
Mm.
clarity about that during that new moon. We need to know where we stand, I think.
So I'll
Perfect.
just add to that. So we've got the new moon, and it's also conjunct Jupiter, and it's square Saturn and Neptune in Aries. So I see this as people wanting to be nurtured, wanting to feel looked after. But the new moon is also out of bounds. it's 28 degrees when it goes beyond 23, it goes beyond the elliptical. So there's going to be a tension between what people are desiring and then the constraints that are in place with external forces such as governance. So this is going to lead to frustration and very raw feelings, and coming into challenging situations. We also have Venus, Uranus in Taurus, and this signifies law, trade, and innovation. So it's going to be a time to look at structural and technological reforms. So it could be AI based, it could be surveillance state, it could be, new ways of doing trade. But as always in life, there's going to be power dynamics and tension of opposites, which is something that we all have to learn to alchemize, endure that tension and come through the other side.
Yeah, I think us in the West, we are not so familiar with these polarities, right? We try to see one thing or the other. Whereas I think in the East, the culture is more aligned with these polarities, which is so astrological. Astrology invites us all the time of seeing the polarities. Yeah, I agree with you, ladies. I think and it's funny how it can be misleading to only look at Jupiter in this new moon as a conjunction. I always emphasize it in my readings that unfortunately the strongest aspects are the tough ones, which I see them as an opportunity. I think squares are opportunities of dynamic and movement, especially with this cardinality super high. But I don't know. I think from one sense it might protect us, and in another sense it could be another strong tone of exaggeration to the square to Saturn Neptune. By the way, just a parenthesis for the audience, this Saturn Neptune, which is just starting, the point, I think it's July or August that they are the closest together, right? So we are heading the point in the year of 2025, as Sandrine was saying, is a very atypical year. It's hard to keep up, right? With all the changes that even for us, that we explain astrology, how hard it is to understand it, so much going on in this time. So that's when they get closest with this dissolution, Neptune, of the structures, right? So we are seeing a lot going on. And I wonder how much, and your opinion about it, how much does Jupiter could be a shadow, not protecting, but emphasizing this nationalism and this fight for territory. We also have, on the top of that, still operational, this square to Mars is imperfect in terms of sign because Taurus is going to be in Taurus and Mars is already in Virgo in the new moon, but still operational. This impatience, right? That's the strongest impatience, in my opinion, is the Mars Uranus intention. So I was wondering your thoughts about it. And we are in this very tough moment while we are recording this video on the 18th, right, ladies? Today is the 18th of June. And a lot's going on in the world at the moment. And I was wondering, today is the day that actually Mars goes into Virgo. So I was thinking how much of a change that can bring from Leo to Virgo in terms of this craziness, because Leo is a more ready to fight for, your space, leadership sign. Do you guys think that it might facilitate a little bit the fact that it's going to
Yeah.
be in Virgo? Any thoughts? I spoke of bits and pieces all over, but anyway, I think you got the point.
Two things. Mars, to me, the Mars in Virgo, because I relate to that placement personally. Um, that's why I said as well. To me, I find it a supportive lunation in the sense that we need to go and find the strength within, but also the sextile to Mars, which is 4 degrees, yeah? So it's exact. I think it's giving us that stamina, that soldering on energy. It's going to be hard. Change is coming. We're going to have to adapt. Virgo is a mutable sign, and Mars is going to give us that edge. Some degree of flexibility, but also that capacity to keep going no matter what. So I see it as a very positive thing. Jupiter, I've kind of gone between two different things. At first, I thought it's really going to emphasize all these topics of safety and origin and family and wanting to be safe. But I think also that there's a second aspect to that, or at least another one, which is to we're going to have to think about our belief, during as well, the foundation for our belief. And because the first decan, so I talked a bit about tarot. I'll talk a bit more about it later because I wanted to talk about Cancer and the tarot. But if we look at that, the first decan in the tarot represent the Two of Cups. And it's about alliances and association. And maybe Jupiter is telling us that we can find support within us and within our own faith and our own belief. And because of, external event, we're going to have to face or to confront or to, contact anyway our belief and have a proper, chat, honest chat within ourselves for what we stand for. And because Jupiter is, yeah, it's optimism, it's expansion, it's all this thing, but it's also what do we make of, what do we believe in? What's, ideas of meaning and personal wisdom, and so it's twofold. On one side, I think there's something very practical, very concrete, so the sextile to Mars, giving us, stamina and nearly like a guerrilla spirit, to cope with the day-to-day difficulties we're going to have. And on the other end, there's maybe a higher reflection, which is more spiritual, more philosophical
Mhm.
at a personal level. And that can provide security as well. It's finding security at different level of our life. What do you think, Catherine?
I think that what we're living through now is quite surprising to us because we've had such a long period of peace. So for us to see newspaper headlines that talk about, destruction of cities and military sort of forces taking out heads of um, the army, and then as well as like the aeroplane. They had an aeroplane crash in India, didn't they, last week? So, but I think every day, you wake up and if you look at the news, you're just inundated with this bad news story. So how do we get through? How do we cope? And the only thing that I can think of really is to accept that um, warfare is kind of part of life. We have to accept it. So through my study of history, looking at poetry, looking at martial culture, it's I feel as though we're going to have to wake up, smell the coffee, come to terms with this sort of raw masculine combative energy, and deal with the new worlds that we're being faced with. So if I say to myself, we've managed to get through this far, humanity will survive. It's just how do you cope as an individual, knowing that all this is going on? And I think this is where astrology, in conjunction with history, can give us some degree of perspective on, cyclic patterns, because empires form and empires fall, don't they? So it's just, what do you do to duck and cover and find safety?
Yeah.
Cycle is a big word here to remember. It's all, cyclic. Cancer is about cycle. You look at the glyph of Cancer. It's very reminiscent of the yin and yang image, and it's that it never stopped. Change never stop, and we need to learn to go with the flow and trust that it will be all right in the end. We've been through tons of stuff like that as a collective, as humanity. We will go through that again. Maybe as well, that's part of that message of Mars in Virgo, especially we've got the South Node then, we've done that before. We're going to do it again. And in the end, maybe we need to keep in focus. Maybe that's the other message of Jupiter here. In the end, it will be for the better. The world will be a better place once we've gone through what's coming. And find the strength within, not to be overwhelmed by fear, because Cancer is also all about emotion. Yeah? So fear is an emotion. So in order to and maybe that emotional not danger, but that risk of being overwhelmed by the emotion is challenged or is stimulated by that square we have with Neptune and Saturn in Aries. Need to stick to a vision and some degree as well of assertivity, combativity, to find that balance between the water and the fire, the emotion and the inspiration. So again, I find that new moon really all the aspects super supportive in the context of what's going on, and very hopeful. Yeah, there's hope in that because something difficult is coming, but we're going to give you some tools to negotiate that passage.
Sandrine, I'm an optimistic by nature. I'm a Sagittarius, but I
Yeah.
don't know. I feel it's a strong moment. I really hope you're right. And I think there is a possibility of that because Jupiter is in its exaltation, right? It's a strong, it's just 1 degree apart. It's like a very full, very close conjunction to Sun and Moon. So it's
I'm
a
not saying
powerful
it's
thing.
I'm not saying it's a short term, it's gonna be short and then all is going to be wonderful. I think we in for quite a significant period of trouble and difficulty. It's not something so in that I'm not I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
Um,
And um, all these aspects that last for the lunation cycle that we were talking about. And throughout the month of July, we see a lot unfolding, right? So 3 planets going to retrograde. So just want to get your insights about that. So in the beginning of the month, for me, it's going to be the 4th of July, but hopefully close to that to you guys, maybe the same day because of the time zone difference, I'm saying. Um, Neptune retrogrades, right? And then we have Saturn around the 13th, and then Mercury on the 18th. So we can debrief a little bit about that. And it's funny because we're having the fire energy here in retrograde, right? The Neptune, Saturn, and then Mercury in the Leo sign, which is the leadership sign. So a lot of back and forth. And let's talk about the retrograde first. I want to hear you guys, and then a big, big ingress, which is Uranus in Gemini, also in July. So I see a big month ahead of us. So first with the retrograde, how do you see? I see this back and forth, right? This um,
Mm.
as Sandrine said, 2025 is already a year of so many ingresses, so many change in energy. And now in the same month, having this retrograde motion is another change in another adaptation that we have to go through. And revision, and hopefully this revision could bring some nice revisiting topics, could be positive in the middle of the chaos we are right now. So your thoughts?
Destabilizing, maybe, because, 2 step forward, 1 step backward kind of energy, but maybe necessary or useful while hopefully we'll have to see it that way. If we have conflict coming, we need to get our head around it. We need to practically prepare for it, especially we can anticipate, Venus, Uranus in Taurus, we can still anticipate some maybe shortages or problem with supply, being petrol or, resources like that. So maybe Mercury retrograde in Cancer, sign of protection and, the base really to anticipate, maybe to save proof or living, space or every day. The Mercury is also ruling Virgo. Sorry, I've just messed up with my chart here. And maybe, yeah, there might be some hesitation in going frontal, some negotiation started or hesitation. Um, but then they'll go direct again, and I think what's coming is coming, even if despite the retrograde, I think that won't be enough to they won't solve the crisis.
What you
Sorry.
think?
So yeah, for me, retrograde, as Sandrine said, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. But it's also a process of internalizing. So it's an opportunity to press pause, reflect, refine. Go to your plan, deal with the delay, and think, is this the right way forward? So it just I think it gives you a little bit of breathing space. It can feel as though you're being stopped in your tracks. It can feel frustrating if you've planned a journey and then the journey is delayed. However, you might find that actually those delays were quite beneficial with hindsight, but it doesn't always feel like that at the time.
Totally agree, breathing space. And I think July is so big, we're gonna need to catch our breath, in the midst of it.
Yeah,
Totally.
the delays could be very welcome in this circumstances we are right now. Yeah. Yeah, and I was thinking while you're talking about all the topics we have been talking. Uh, Cancer, the Cancer is the only Jupiter is the only slow planet in a water sign. All that we spoke that the development might be coming from within, from all the characteristics of Cancer, of the protection, of your roots, of your emotions. And then we have the ingress of Uranus in Gemini, which is going to bring so much, right? In terms of technology, of rebellion. I see Gemini as the sign of the peers, right? The same as we are. So we saw Uranus and Gemini happening in times of civil wars or rebellions against people, fighting people. Of course, not only the shadow aspect, I think it's a lot happening in terms of technology around, our minds, or, it's gonna start this trine process with Pluto in Aquarius. So we can expect a level of technology that we have never, ever seen before. The expansion of the mind, but also could be the expansion of anxiety because it's so fast. How do you ladies are seeing this in the midst of all that is happening?
I was looking at date in the past. Sorry, Catherine, you are gonna go. I saw the kind of odd I was looking at some date yesterday in history, and the last ingresses, Uranus in Gemini, it's the Second World War. It's so it is led to internet and all that technological. Just to talk about the technology, I'm not even going into anything else. And the one before it was, you had the Industrial Revolution. So really, we can expect that in 7 years' time, we would have laid the ground for a complete new way of being human, really. Especially now we've reached that, we we talk a lot about artificial intelligence, and with the trying to Pluto. I mean, I think this particular transit of Uranus in Gemini, it's going to change your life perhaps like never before.
Agree.
So,
Catherine.
so my thoughts then, while you were talking, was to do with systemic decay. They were to do with the way that we're governed, to do with the surveillance. And I was thinking that it is a two-way thing because, we can scrutinize the people who scrutinize us, you know? So it might be, that certain things are going to have to change and people are not going to put up with what they've been putting up with. So, I would just say that with the out of bounds moon as well, there's going to be very, very strong feelings that, the way that things are being played out at the moment is going to have to decay and grow.
We always start by doing the mistakes, yeah. I always compare that to the life cycle of a human being, you know. You start walking, you start falling, yeah.
Mhm.
All the falling first, then you do the walking. We're going to do exactly the same, I feel, with artificial intelligence. Just, we'll do the falling first, and then we'll get up again. I'm just not sure. I mean, that's a personal thought, maybe not relevant at this stage. I just wonder if we will see, the end of that process. I mean, I speak us, in our generation. I don't know how long it's going to take. I mean, Pluto is in Aquarius for 20 years, so yeah, maybe we'll have a glimpse of it. But coming back to that new moon, I think that square to Saturn and Neptune in Aries, I think it's really important that we take a side actually, or if not take a side, I think to me to me we can't be passive. We need to be actively involved in that process of change, and in conscious and in consciousness we need to think. We can't just think. We can't just let other people decide for us. We can't just believe, at first, value what we're being told or informed. We have to work a bit harder individually.
Yeah, and it's nice comments, and then I was thinking, what a change from a Uranus in Taurus, which is slow. I see so much a big change in speed. I always think of when we talking about signs and modalities and all that, how we change speed. So we're gonna see a huge change because Uranus in Taurus is not so, I would say it's not comfortable maybe at all because we have a planet of full innovative in a sign that tends to maintain stuff as it is because it want to preserve and be safe. Whereas in Gemini, it can be quick and very quick in our minds. And I think about the social media. I don't know about you ladies, but I hear noise all the time. Like people, the amount of information and videos and curiosities, whatever, that we are, putting into our system, our mental system, our emotional system. Why not? Because it enters through the mind, but then all this, problems in terms of social media, which is, by the way, I'm not demonizing social media. I think it's a great thing that puts voice into everybody's life. So it's nice. On the other hand, it's causing so much noise to digest. So I wonder what a big, I myself, I think of all crazy things in terms of social media and technology together in a shift that we are not even thinking about. Maybe the social media is not, calling someone and seeing the image. Maybe you see an hologram. Maybe, I can put you ladies here in my living room and we talk, and I don't know.
Maybe
So
we'll have to wait for Uranus to enter
yeah.
to see a better side of that. You know, you are talking about the emotional side of AI. Maybe we will have to wait for after Gemini for to enter that phase. Actually, if you think again about in terms of previous transits, when you had Uranus in Gemini and the post World War II, yeah, this is what at least here in Europe, this is what we put into place health service for the people. It was very much focused on family value and protecting, people. So we'll have to wait, I think. But it's going to be overwhelming. I think so fast-paced, so Gemini,
Yeah,
going in every direction. Catch me if you can, kind of Uranus. Yeah.
true.
Going back to the social media, though, I think what it does signify is that people are no longer willing to believe mainstream media.
Yeah.
So I think that's why I said, tables can be turned, and without us, we don't have to feel as though, it's all one way and we're being scrutinized. I think the government is absolutely terrified of the power of the people, which is why there's this sort of like ineffective response going on, because they don't want trouble, but they know that they're in trouble because the propaganda doesn't work anymore, because people can exchange information between themselves. They don't need to go via the mainstream. So that really is the revolution in terms of Gemini and comms. So yeah, in interesting times.
Side
uh,
is done. You can feel it. You're talking about people, not accepting the propaganda anymore. And you can feel that rebellious energy coming through already. And Uranus hasn't even entered, but the premises of that energy are being felt in the last, week or so, really. It's obvious that there's going to be a counter reaction. And in
And
that, Gemini is also information, yeah. So that is going to be redefined.
Because
yeah,
Denise started by talking about a lot of cardinal energy around, and maybe that cardinal energy is going to be felt on an individual basis, where people will feel more brave,
mhm.
more willing to take action, less sort of Saturn in Pisces and more Saturn in Aries, So
Yeah, I like
maybe
it.
maybe
Mm,
it will signify greater confidence for people.
yeah, that's the proposal of Aries, right? This big Aries calling. I think the sky is saying, "Wake up!" Right? Wait, it's all about you being the protagonist, right? Of your life, of the collective, and
Exactly. And taking responsibility and saying, I can't outsource these services. I need to take responsibility for making sure that we got, fresh water, food, power. Lots of people are living off grid now, aren't they? So um, yeah, take back what you need to take back.
yeah, and I think in Cancer, maybe taking this ownership of your happiness. I see Cancer a lot dealing with this emotional management and happiness, right? Because when our emotional side is so unbalanced, we are unhappy. I think it brings such, it's tough to manage emotion because emotional is not rational, right? So I think it can bring this possibility of you know, resignifying how we see and take the ownership of our own happiness.
That's the square Mercury, Karen, do it for that new moon. That's pressing that, you know, maybe, yeah. We got Mercury at 28 in Cancer and Chiron 26, and it's that maybe, you know, we need to heal. We need to be able to express our individual point of view again. Maybe bring back debate into the public domain, open and um, yeah. I think there's an idea of integrity as well that is important, and integrity is also being honest with what sourcing the right kind of, sourcing the information or whatever. But it's also you as a person, or if you represent a collectivity, being honest in what you deliver, in what you
And
expect.
I think that will only go to serve to help, the mental health problems that we're facing. I think once people have personal integrity, once they have self-respect, once they have self-confidence, then I imagine, a lot of the mental health things will just be an emergent feature that no longer, give us such a problem.
Mental health with the placement of Mercury in Cancer. It's such a good point, actually, Cassie. I think this is, and we were just before we started the video, we had a chat with Denise and wondering how equipped we are today to face, major trouble. And, I feel we're not very well equipped. And mental health, it needs to be turned around into, mental strength.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
on that point, then I would like to just fast forward to January when the moon is going to be full moon in Cancer.
Mhm.
Because if we plant seeds now, what is it that we want to manifest by January? So I think that's something that we could ask people at home to think about. What do you want to put in place now that you want to manifest by the time we get to the 3rd of January? What's important to you?
I love that thought, Kathy. Because I love that because it brings this connection with co-creation. I think when you do that, you're using all the knowledge of astrology to create with the universe, like to be a participant,
Mm,
not to be a passive listener, but back to the responsibility point, to be a participant and I like the meaning of responsibility, which is the ability to respond, right? So you gain back the ability to respond to something when you take responsibility. So I love this co-creation thing. So thanks for bringing it up. It's lovely. And yeah, what we meditate, what we energize is our future, right? We
yeah.
are
What do you want?
yeah.
Within limits, though, I agree. It's good to project because it's always about axis, and so it's good to think ahead and what it is going to bring. And in the tarot, the Cancer as a sign is connected to the Chariot. So you see the one it is. Actually, I've got it
Yeah, show
somewhere.
us. I was going to ask you, Sandrine, to guide us a little bit on the tarot for this new moon.
Yes, I don't know if you can see. Yeah.
Yes, I know this one. Yeah.
So it's connected to the sign of Cancer, and it's that
Sandrine,
there
if you
is.
could just hold a little bit so the audience can see a little bit. Yeah.
Is that the chariot?
Yeah.
So there are lots of symbolism, obviously, as in all the cards. But if you think of Cancer in relation to the Chariot, then you conjure ideas of cyclic change, progression, development. And so you're moving along that axis. And so whether we want it or not, we will get to the point where we have that full moon. Yeah. In Cancer in January. I think we said it was the 3rd. Yeah. Whether or not we want it, change is coming. There is a progression. The chariot is moving forward. The charioteer, he is not holding the rein at all. All he can control again, it's it's inner realm. So what we have to have that chat with ourselves. So it's a bit of a stoic thing again here. All we can do is manage our reaction and the way we handle change, because change never stop. Yeah.
Yeah.
Although we still have a share. It's the continuous debate, yeah, between free will and, do we have free will or not? I think, we have free will to, uh, in terms of our reaction. And I still think we can influence on heaven. What we don't have free will on is that heaven keeps happening. We can't hope we're going to reach a state, like going back to Cancer, where we feel super safe, yeah, and it's just going to stay there. It won't. It keeps evolving. There's a flow we just need to go with. And as well, I mean, to go back to that card, in that one, it's not as obvious as in some other card. But there's a real divide in the middle. And you were talking about the solstice, Denise, which is taking place just before, a few days before the new moon. And yeah, it's that idea of going on the other side. So sometimes you go on to the darker side and then, but to re-emerge on the lighter side. And it's exactly what's happening in nature, yeah? And the solstice, we're going back towards the dark side again, actually, after the solstice of June, the summer solstice. The days are going to get shorter and shorter, but in the safe in the knowledge than that, further down the line we will go the other side. So there's a lot in that card, and it's really interesting. Actually, I don't know if you can see, he's got a little cancer on his helmet.
Yes, little
Mm,
crab.
A
yeah,
little crumb,
it's
literally.
lovely. It's nice symbolism.
Yeah.
Powerful.
Fact that you got the animals, the beasts there. They're not all looking in the right direction, yeah. So you don't really know how change is going to, like we are at the moment. We don't know, which direction it's really going to take. It can go in all direction, There's that uncertainty all the time about change that we need to integrate. And that's that thing about, being, find some safe space within to feel still safe enough in the midst of all that uncertainty.
Mm,
She's coming
um,
with being.
that's super nice. And yeah, in that spirit, I would like to wrap up with one topic that is so Cancerian, it's so Cancer, and we haven't spoken so much about it, which is this connection with the feminine, motherhood.
Mm.
What are we pregnant with? Maybe the question in this month of Cancer in July. This space of the feminine that these days are maybe a tough space. What are the changes that might come up with this? Jupiter is in Cancer after all for 1 year. This is a quick thing. The lunar in Cancer once a year, but Jupiter is going to be a full year there. So, any thoughts about this? What, as a civilization, since Saturn Neptune is really questioning our behavior in Aries, maybe we need to give birth to what? Maybe.
I love that idea actually, Denise, because I haven't thought about that, but it's so heartwarming actually. Coming back to that chariot, it doesn't hold the rein. But actually, it's not because you don't have a hold of the rein that you're not allowed to dream of a destination, yeah? You can still dream of going somewhere really specific and yeah, I'm going to think about that actually with my seven house and stuff. What do
Yeah.
you give birth?
So I'm thinking of my answer to your question. What am I pregnant with? Well, I'm just full of words and I've got to deliver an essay. So that's my due date. Um, but in terms of the bigger picture, I would really like to highlight the role of motherhood and to be able to promote it to the younger generation as something to really embrace and to accept and to enjoy and to not regard as a burden, but to regard it as a blessing, a part of natural processes, a part of life. And and I think that there's has been a very, very strong theme telling us women that we're hard done by. So I would like to push back against that and come back with a counter narrative and say, do you know how wonderful it is, to be able to bring new life into the world?
And
And
then it's true. It's beautiful actually. It's the motherhood is so important. And then cancer and ancestry. I've got four grandchildren, and at the minute there is lots of support work. I mean, work is not the word, but it is a wonderful thing to be able to do, and you have a role in the transmission as well, like Jupiter in here, and it's not a burden; it's a privilege actually to be able to bring that line of comfort and safety to to your to your tribe really.
Mhm.
So, I would like to raise motherhood up to a higher mantle and say, this is something that has been adored and loved and protected, and men have been prepared to lay their lives down for the mother and child. So, we have a Madonna for a reason. She's really important.
Yeah, I fully agree. And I've heard this week a video on Instagram, and the lady was saying our generation especially bought the narrative that success was career. And she actually decided not to have a child and she regretted. So I think this is a big topic at the moment. And it's funny in this lunation cycle because new moon is in Cancer, motherhood. And of course, the full moon is in Capricorn, this success in the social life, right? The success in hierarchy, in power, in outside success, right? Whereas Cancer is this in energy of the success
Mm.
in words and in private life and in motherhood and in relations with emotions and so on. So I think it could be a topic of this month too with this full moon in Capricorn. Yeah, but it's lovely. I'm also pregnant with words, Kathy. I have
When's your
and
due date?
I have a due date far away. It's July 24th, but I want to do earlier than that. And but it has been such a journey studying Egypt, and it has all you said about the rebirth of the tarot cards, and really reminded me of this. It's all about renewal, Egyptian mentality of, anyway, it's so interesting. Some topic for another day, maybe. Uh, so final thoughts, ladies. So it was lovely. I think we covered a lot to our beautiful audience, wherever you are. And for you who are listening to us, let us know where you're listening us from, which country, what did you think about it, your thoughts, what you are pregnant with. Let us know.
Yes.
Please, and let's have this as a space to exchange ideas. Let us know what we haven't spoken about that was, emerged for you during this conversation. And final thoughts, ladies. Any final thoughts that you wish we had spoken and we didn't, or maybe
Just what you said last about, the career and the mother. I think if you want a good, if you want to build anything in life which is going to be sound and solid, you need a good foundation. You need a good base, and the best base you can get is love. Yeah, and that's what symbolized the Virgin Mary. If we were talking about that, that iconography, and so love is the base to grow anything strong before anything. So
well,
let's hope the world is pregnant with love because we're going to need it.
Well,
yes.
the song that's jumped into my head is, I think it's Patsy Cline, Stand By Your Man. So,
Great. So, ladies, thank you. It was lovely. Always nice to be together. So that's the idea of this 3 degrees for people who are listening. We just want to have fun and be together. We are pregnant with ourselves, our ideas, our desires, whatever. Let us know you. And we see you next month, right?
See
Take
you
care.
okay,
next.
look forward to it.
Bye bye.
Bye.
All right, bye-bye.